Hi guys, so today we will be talking about proportions, okay? So a proportion is when two ratios connected by an equal sign and they will be equivalent to one another. So everybody look at this example over here. This is not on your paper, so if you guys would like to write this down, that would be awesome. So there's two different ways to solve a proportion, okay? I will prefer you guys to one way, but just know that there is a different way to solve this as well, okay? So the first way is the way that I do not prefer, but I will teach you guys it, is notice that we are trying to solve for x here, okay? And the first way that you could think about this is look at your denominators. Notice how this denominator is 20 and this denominator is 40. And if these two fractions or ratios have to be equal to each other, that means that if our denominator is multiplied by something to get this denominator, whatever we multiplied on the bottom, we can do it to the top as well to get the value of x. So let's think about it. If we took 20 times what? 20 times what would give us 40? Hopefully you guys are saying 2. So if we were to take 20 times 2, that would give us our 40. Well, just like I said, to get our x value, if both of these fractions have to be equal, if we multiplied our denominator by 2, whatever we do to the bottom, we can do it to the top, and we can multiply 12 times 2 to give us the value of x. So 12 times 2 is 24, which means our x value is going to be 24. Okay? So yes, that way does seem pretty easy, right? But notice this example over here is not as obvious to tell what our multiplying number is going to be, because 20 times something does not give us the exact 30 here, so this would have to be a decimal. So this is why this method doesn't work all the time, because of problems that are like this. So here's the second way, and the way that I prefer that you guys do to solve these problems. Okay, so I'm going to use the same problem to show you guys that we will get the same answer. And the way that I teach it is called cross products. So cross products is when you multiply the diagonals, and that will create an equation for you, and then you just solve it with a one-step equation. Okay, so what this means is cross products is you are going to multiply your diagonals together. So if we were to take 20 times x, well, 20 times x would just give us 20x equals, and then multiply your other diagonal. So if we were to take 40 times 12, let's see what that gives us. So 40 times 12, that would give us 480. And notice how we just have what we call a one-step equation now, okay? And how we solve one-step equations is we want to get our value of x by itself, since that is what we are trying to solve. We are trying to get x equals. Well, to get x by itself, we need to move this 20 over to the other side. And the only way that we can move it is to use the inverse operation of whatever is occurring between the 20 and the x. So what that means is, what does it mean when a number is shoved up next to a variable? What operation is occurring? Hopefully you guys are saying multiplication. Anytime a number is shoved up next to a variable, that means that they're multiplying. So if I want to move the 20 over to the other side, I have to do the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. So to show that I'm dividing on both sides, because remember we still have to show all of our work, I'm just going to use the fraction bar, because remember from yesterday with unit rates, fraction bar means divide. So I'm just going to say I'm dividing by 20 on both sides of my equal sign. And then this is the work that I have to do right here. So 480 divided by 20. And that gives us that 24 again, just like we did up above in that first problem. Okay. So which way was the fastest? Obviously this way was. So if it's obvious what the multiplying number is going to be, you are more than welcome to do it this way. You guys just have to show me what you're multiplying on both sides. But if it's not as obvious, I want you guys to use this method. And I highly encourage you guys for today's notes to practice this method, because that is what I will be doing on today's notes. Okay, so yes, on your homework and assignments, you can do it this way, but I need you guys to practice this way just in case on your quiz or test it's not as obvious what your number is. Okay, so let's look at number 2. So again, we will be using cross products to solve all of these problems. So with proportions, remember it's a fraction equals a fraction, and these two fractions will be equivalent to each other. And since we are trying to find x, we are going to use our cross products. So I am going to multiply my numbers across. So 13 times x would give me 13x. And then I can multiply my other diagonals. So if I were to take 15 times 39, that would give me 585. And then once again, to get x by itself, because we are trying to solve for x here, we need to do the opposite of whatever's happening with the 13 and the x. And 13 and x are multiplying, so the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So I will divide by 13 on both sides. And yes, you guys have to show all of this work. We are doing one-step equations in January, and this is the proper algebraic steps to show that you are dividing on both sides. So please take your notes exactly like I am. So if we were to take 585 divided by the 13, we get 45. So x equals 45. All right, so as you guys know, you guys can pause the video at any time to catch up on the notes, but I'm just going to keep moving along. So next one, again, we're trying to solve for x here so that we can get equivalent fractions. And to do that, I'm going to use cross products. So that means that I can multiply my diagonals. So 6 times x will give me 6x. And then 5 times 30, if I were to plug that in my calculator, 5 times 30 gives me 150. And now I still just need to solve for x. So again, to get x by itself, you need to do the opposite of whatever is happening with the number next to it. So the 6 and the x are multiplying right now, so the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So you'll divide by 6 on both sides, and remember to show all of your work, please. So when we take 150 divided by 6, we get an answer of 25. All right, number 4. So same thing. If we're trying to solve for x, I want you guys to practice the cross products here. So that means that you are going to multiply your diagonals together. So when I take 10 times x, that gives me 10x. And when we take 50 times 3, that would give me 150. Then your very last step to get x by itself is to just divide by 10 on both sides. And 150 divided by 10 would give you a value of 15. All right, I'm going to do 2 more with you guys, and then I want you guys to try out the rest of the problems by yourself. So let's go ahead and do 5 and 6 real fast. So again, to solve a proportion, to solve for a missing number in a proportion, you will use cross products. So that means that you will multiply your diagonals together. And it doesn't matter which diagonals you start with. So I always started with these. That was only because the x was involved with that first diagonal. But I usually always start with the diagonal that involves the x. So this time I'm going to multiply the second ones together. So 63 times x is 63x. And then 7 times 81, you guys can use your calculator. So 7 times 81 would give me 567. And the last step is we need to get x by itself since we are trying to solve for x in our fraction. So we need to do the opposite of multiplying the 63, and that would be dividing the 63 on both sides so that we can get x by itself. So then 567 divided by 63 gives us the answer of 9. And I should state too, the reason why this gives us x by itself is because, do you guys agree that 63 divided by 63 is just 1? And you can even check it. 63 divided by 63 is 1. So technically this would be a 1x, but 1x is just the same thing as x. So this is why when we divide, we're dividing by this 63 on both sides, because it will give us x by itself. And that's what we want. We're trying to solve for x, and we need that x to be that single number there. Okay? All right, one more, then I'll have you guys try out the other ones. So 100 times x is 100x. 25 times 16. 25 times 16 is 400. And then your last step to get x by itself is to just divide by 100 on both sides, and you should get x equals 4. Okay? So I want you guys to stop the video and try out the bottom 6 problems, okay? And then I am going to create a second video so that after you guys are done with the 6 problems, you guys can move on to the second video and check your answers for me, okay? So go ahead and pause the video and work on 7 through 12, and then click on the next video to check your answers.